I never imagined my life would unravel in such a humiliating way. A year ago, I was a respected professional, a devoted husband, and a man who took pride in the life he had built. Now, I stood in the middle of a high-rise office, surrounded by sneering faces, reduced to nothing more than a joke. It started with a simple visit to drop off some documents. My ex-wife, Vanessa, worked at Brighton & Co., a marketing firm that had recently expanded into international markets. She had always been ambitious, always reaching for more, never quite satisfied with what she had. For most of our marriage, I thought that ambition was just a part of her drive for success, something I admired, even if it sometimes made her distant. I learned too late that it was more than just ambition. Vanessa had spent the last year of our marriage subtly pulling away, growing colder, more dismissive. She worked late nights, attended networking events I was never invited to, and began dressing differently, sleeker, bolder, like a woman stepping into a new role. I had my suspicions, but I never pressed. I didn't want to be the insecure husband questioning his wife's loyalty. And then one night, the truth hit me like a freight train. I found messages, hundreds of them. Some were playful, others intimate, but all of them were with the same man, Adrian Kane. He wasn't just Vanessa's boss, he was the owner of Brighton & Co., a self-proclaimed alpha male who exuded power and dominance in every way I lacked, at least in Vanessa's eyes. He had the wealth, the status, the presence. I had been nothing more than a stepping stone for her. Vanessa didn't even try to deny it when I confronted her. She simply tilted her head, a smirk playing on her lips, and said, "I think deep down you already knew." Those words echoed in my head as I stood in the lobby of Brighton & Co., clutching an envelope containing legal documents from our divorce. The firm had insisted I bring them in person for some final signatures, an errand I had agreed to out of sheer obligation. I told myself it was just business, but deep down, I knew there was another reason I had come. I wanted to see her face. I wanted to look her in the eyes, to remind her that despite everything, I was still standing. The receptionist gave me a once-over, her lips pursing slightly as if she recognized me. Vanessa had likely told stories about me, about the husband she had outgrown, the man who wasn't strong enough for her. She barely managed a professional smile as she called up to the executive floor. A few minutes later, the elevator doors opened, and out stepped Adrian Kane himself. He was every bit the man Vanessa had chosen over me, tall, broad-shouldered, his suit tailored to perfection. He had the kind of presence that commanded attention the moment he entered a room. His sharp eyes landed on me, and for a brief moment, he looked almost amused. Well, he said, stepping forward with the confidence of a man who had already won. "If it isn't Vanessa's ex." I clenched my jaw, refusing to let the smirk on his face get to me. "I was told Vanessa needed to sign these." Adrian didn't even glance at the documents. Instead, he turned to the receptionist. "You hear that, Rachel? Looks like our new cleaner is taking on extra duties." The words didn't register at first. But then the receptionist laughed, a sharp, cruel sound, and my stomach twisted. "Excuse me?" I said, my voice even. Adrian's smirk widened. "Oh, Vanessa didn't tell you? We've been looking for a new janitor. Figured a man in your position might need the work." Laughter erupted from the reception area as employees passing through caught wind of what was happening. My pulse pounded in my ears, heat rising up my neck. And then she appeared. Vanessa. She stepped out of the elevator like she owned the entire building, her heels clicking against the polished floor. Her golden hair was styled in waves, her deep red dress hugging her figure perfectly. She looked like power, like everything I had once believed was mine. And she was laughing. The sound of her amusement cut deeper than any insult Adrian could have thrown my way. She looked at me like I was nothing more than an inconvenience, a reminder of a past she had long since discarded. "Jason," she said, her voice laced with mock sympathy. "What are you doing here?" I held up the envelope. "The papers. They said you needed to sign them." She waved a hand dismissively. "Oh, that? I'll get to it." Adrian leaned in, his voice just loud enough for the surrounding employees to hear. Vanessa, be honest. Did you ever really see him as a man? Or just a placeholder? My fist clenched so tightly my nails dug into my palms. Vanessa let out a breathy laugh, her eyes sparkling with amusement. Oh, Jason tried. But you know how it is, Adrian, some men just don't have it in them. Another wave of laughter spread through the lobby. The walls felt like they were closing in, the humiliation pressing against my chest like a vice. I turned to leave. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of a reaction. But just as I reached the elevator, Adrian called out one last time. Hey, if you change your mind about the cleaning gig, let us know. The doors closed behind me, but the laughter followed me all the way down. As I stepped out into the cold afternoon air, I realized something. I had reached my lowest point. And now, there was only one direction left to go. Up. The laughter still echoed in my ears as I stepped out onto the crowded city sidewalk, my fingers clenched around the divorce papers. My pulse was pounding, my mind replaying every second of that humiliating encounter. Vanessa and Adrian hadn't just mocked me, they had torn me apart in front of their colleagues, stripped me of my dignity, and left me standing there like some pitiful ex-husband who still hadn't moved on. The worst part? They thought I would take it. That I'd swallow my pride, shuffle back to my mediocre life, and let them revel in their victory. But as I stood there, staring at my reflection in a darkened storefront window, something inside me shifted. I wasn't angry. I was furious. Not just at them, but at myself. For letting Vanessa do this to me. For allowing her to make me feel small. For giving her the satisfaction of watching me walk away like a beaten man. I had been too nice. Too patient. Too understanding. I had spent years being the stable, dependable husband while Vanessa chased excitement. And when she finally found a shinier, richer, more powerful man to latch onto, she discarded me like yesterday's garbage. And I had let her. That ended now. I turned on my heel and marched straight to the only place I could think of, the bar I used to frequent back when I was still married, back when Vanessa would roll her eyes every time I went out for just one beer. As I stepped inside, the scent of aged whiskey and stale cigarette smoke filled my nostrils. It was dimly lit, a place where men came to drown their regrets in liquor and silence. I wasn't here to drown mine. I was here to sharpen them. Jason? I turned to see a familiar face behind the bar, Caleb, the bartender who had served me more nights than I could count during the final years of my marriage. He was a stocky guy with tattooed forearms and a permanent 5 o'clock shadow, the kind of man who'd seen more broken relationships than he cared to count. Haven't seen you in a while, he said, tossing a towel over his shoulder. Let me guess, divorce finally went through? I exhaled sharply. Just about. He let out a low whistle. Damn. Vanessa finally did it, huh? She did a lot more than that. I pulled up a barstool and ran a hand through my hair. She humiliated me, Caleb. In front of her entire office. And her boss? Adrian Kane? He treated me like I was nothing. Caleb poured me a drink, setting the glass down with a heavy thud. And what are you gonna do about it? I took a slow sip, feeling the burn of whiskey slide down my throat. That's the thing, I murmured. I don't know yet. But I know I'm not gonna let them get away with it. Caleb studied me for a moment, then nodded. Good. Because nothing's worse than a man who just lies down and takes it. I tightened my grip around the glass. I had laid down and taken it for too long. That was going to change. The plan begins. The next morning, I woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. If Vanessa and Adrian thought I was some pathetic, washed-up ex-husband who would disappear into the shadows, they were dead wrong. I didn't just want to move on, I wanted to win. I spent the entire day thinking about my next move. And by evening, I had my answer. I needed to reinvent myself. I had been so consumed by my marriage, by being the good husband, that I had lost myself in the process. But that was over now. If I was going to take my life back, I needed to start from scratch. Step 1: fix my body. I had let myself go over the years. Not horribly, but enough that I no longer looked like the man Vanessa had married. Back then, I had been strong, confident, driven. Now, I looked like a guy who had given up. That night, I signed up for a boxing gym. Not just some regular weightlifting nonsense. I needed something that would toughen me up, teach me how to fight, make me sharper than ever before. Step 2. Fix my mind. I started reading books on business, on power, on mindset. If Adrian Kane was the kind of man Vanessa wanted, then I would become something even greater. Step 3. Fix my image. I threw out my old clothes, the ones Vanessa had always approved of. Gone were the boring button-downs and dad jeans. If I was going to step back into the world, I was going to look the part. I invested in tailored suits, upgraded my entire wardrobe, and got a fresh haircut. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't just see Jason, the man Vanessa left. I saw the man I was meant to be. Revenge takes shape. 2 weeks into my transformation, I ran into someone unexpected. I was at a high-end rooftop bar, a place Vanessa and I had always deemed too expensive when we were together. I was nursing a whiskey, enjoying the cool night air, when I heard a familiar voice behind me. Jason? I turned, and there she was. Vanessa's best friend. Lauren Matthews. She was one of Vanessa's closest confidants, a woman who had always been nice to me, even when the cracks in my marriage started showing. She blinked at me in surprise, her gaze raking over my new appearance. Wow. You look different. I smirked, swirling my drink. Better or worse? She let out a low whistle. Better. I leaned back against the bar. Let me guess. Vanessa's been running her mouth about me? Lauren hesitated, then nodded. She told us about what happened at the office. About Adrian's joke. I clenched my jaw. Figures. But... She paused, biting her lip. She also said something else. That you'd probably disappear and fade into nothing. That you'd never move on. I laughed. A cold, bitter sound. Oh, Vanessa, I murmured. You have no idea. Lauren tilted her head, studying me. You're planning something, aren't you? I downed the rest of my drink and set the glass on the bar with a soft clink. I turned to her, my lips curling into a slow, knowing smile. Lauren, I said smoothly, this is just the beginning. Revenge isn't about rage, it's about precision. For 2 weeks, I had been rebuilding myself from the inside out. Boxing had reshaped my body, sharpened my reflexes. My wardrobe and haircut transformed the way people saw me. The books I had devoured taught me one undeniable truth: power is perception. If I wanted to take back control, I needed to change the way Vanessa and Adrian saw me. And that started tonight. Lauren Matthews had been my unexpected ally. Vanessa's best friend had always been loyal to her, but she wasn't blind. When we met at the rooftop bar 2 weeks ago, I saw the flicker of doubt in her eyes, the recognition that Vanessa had underestimated me. That was all I needed. A single doubt could unravel everything. Tonight, Lauren had invited me to an exclusive corporate event, one that Vanessa and Adrian would be attending. I stood in front of my mirror, adjusting the cuffs of my tailored black suit. The man staring back at me wasn't the Jason who had walked out of Brighton and Cole humiliated. This Jason had presence, confidence, power. I smirked, grabbed my keys, and headed out. The venue was an upscale hotel ballroom, filled with people who thrived on status and image. Men in $1,000 suits, women draped in designer dresses, all of them exchanging fake smiles and backhanded compliments. As I stepped inside, heads turned. Not because they recognized me, because I carried myself like I belong. Lauren spotted me first. She blinked in surprise before flashing a slow, approving smile. Damn, Jason. You clean up better than I expected. I chuckled, taking a sip of my whiskey. You say that like you doubted me. She leaned in, her lips close to my ear. I didn't doubt you. But Vanessa did. I let her words settle in, then turned my gaze toward the crowd. And there she was. Vanessa. Dressed in an emerald green dress, her blonde hair styled in perfect waves. She was standing by Adrian's side, laughing at something he said, her hand resting lightly on his arm. They looked like a power couple. Too bad I was about to rewrite their narrative. Vanessa's laughter faltered when she saw me. Her eyes widened, her lips parting slightly in shock. She blinked, as if she couldn't quite process what she was looking at. I let the silence stretch, savoring the moment. Then I smiled. Confident. Unbothered. Like I hadn't spent a second thinking about her since the day she humiliated me. Jason, she finally breathed, her voice uncertain. Adrian turned, frowning as he followed her gaze. His expression shifted from confusion to irritation. I walked toward them at a leisurely pace, sipping my drink, completely at ease. Vanessa, I greeted smoothly. Adrian. She was still staring, her eyes scanning over my suit, my sharper jawline, the weight I had lost. I could see the flicker of doubt, the realization that I wasn't the man she had left behind. I turned to Adrian, who was watching me like I was an insect buzzing too close to his meal. Didn't expect to see you here, Adrian said coolly, his lips curling into a smirk. I thought you had moved on to other things. Like being the cleaner. I didn't react. That's what he wanted. Instead, I smirked, tilting my glass toward him in mock acknowledgement. Oh, I have moved on. And up. Adrian's smirk faltered for a split second. Vanessa's brows furrowed. What do you mean? I took a slow sip of my whiskey before answering. Let's just say I've been keeping busy. Expanding my interests. Exploring new opportunities. It was vague, intentional. Powerful men didn't explain themselves. They let people wonder. And judging by the way Vanessa was staring at me, she was wondering a lot. Lauren, sensing the tension, slid up beside me with a coy smile. Jason, you never told me you knew Vanessa and Adrian. Adrian's jaw twitched at her familiarity with me. Vanessa blinked. Wait, you two know each other? I glanced at Lauren, smirking. Oh, we go way back. Lauren ran a finger along the rim of her wine glass. Jason's been quite the topic of conversation lately. Vanessa's grip on her clutch tightened. Adrian's gaze darkened. Good. Let them stew. Before they could say anything else, I turned back to Lauren. Come on, let's get another drink. This place is a little stale. Lauren laughed, looping her arm through mine as we walked away. And as we did, I could feel Vanessa watching me. By the time the night ended, I knew I had accomplished exactly what I set out to do. Lauren had fed me valuable information over drinks, about Adrian's questionable business deals, about Vanessa's growing insecurities in their relationship. It was all useful. Because this wasn't just about looking good in front of them. This was about tearing them down from the inside out. And tonight was only the first move. As I stepped outside into the cool night air, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. A deep voice answered on the other end. Jason. Didn't think I'd hear from you again. I smirked. Let's talk business. Because if Vanessa and Adrian thought they could mock me, discard me, and move on, they were about to learn the hard way. I don't just get even. I win. The night at the corporate event had gone exactly as I planned. Vanessa was rattled. Adrian was irritated. And more importantly, they were paying attention. That was the first step. But I wasn't just going to haunt their thoughts. I was going to tear them apart from the inside. Which is why, as I walked down the quiet city street, I stayed on the phone with the man who would help me do it. Jason, the deep voice on the other end said again. You sure you want to go down this road? I smirked. Leo, if I didn't, I wouldn't have called. Leo Carter had been my best friend since college. We'd lost touch over the years, but he had always been the kind of guy who knew things, connections in high places, access to information most people wouldn't even know where to look for. And he owed me. I had pulled him out of some legal trouble years ago, and he never forgot it. You need dirt on Adrian Kane, Leo said, his voice thoughtful. And you need it fast. Preferably something that'll make him sweat. I paused. But I don't just want to hurt him. I want to ruin him. Leo let out a low whistle. Damn. That bad? I thought about the way Adrian had humiliated me in front of his entire office. The way Vanessa had laughed. The way they had looked at me like I was nothing. Yeah, I said coldly. It's that bad. Leo was quiet for a moment, then I heard him typing. All right. Give me a few days. I'll dig into his financials, his business deals. If there's something dirty in there, I'll find it. I exhaled, my jaw tightening. Good. I hung up. Step 1 was in motion. Now, it was time for step 2. If Vanessa had been shaken by my presence at the corporate event, I needed to fan that flame. She needed to doubt her choices. And I knew exactly how to make that happen. That's why I found myself outside her favorite high-end cafe the next afternoon, dressed in a crisp navy suit, sipping an espresso like I didn't have a care in the world. Because I knew Vanessa would show up. She was a creature of habit. She got her overpriced coffee every weekday at noon, like clockwork. And sure enough, at 12:03, she walked through the doors. The second she saw me, she froze. It was only for a split second, but I caught it, the hesitation, the flicker of confusion in her eyes. She hadn't expected to see me again. I let her squirm for a moment before looking up, feigning surprise. Vanessa, I greeted smoothly, as if I barely registered her presence. She walked up slowly, crossing her arms over her designer dress. Jason. Twice in 1 week? You're really getting out there. I smirked, leaning back in my chair. What can I say? Life's been good to me lately. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Really? That's interesting. Because you weren't exactly thriving when I last saw you. I chuckled. That's the thing about people like you, Vanessa. You think once you step on someone, they stay down. I took a slow sip of my coffee. Turns out you were wrong. She stared at me, searching my face for answers. I could see the questions forming in her mind. How was I suddenly confident? What had changed? But I didn't give her anything. I let her wonder. She tilted her head, her blonde hair cascading over one shoulder. You've changed. I flashed her a smirk. That's what happens when you remove dead weight from your life. Her jaw clenched ever so slightly. Bullseye. For a moment, she just stood there, shifting her clutched purse between her hands. Then, she sat down across from me. I hid my satisfaction behind another sip of espresso. Well, she said, tapping her nails on the table. If life is so great, what exactly are you doing these days? I let the silence stretch, watching her squirm. Then I shrugged. A few investments here and there. Business opportunities. Vagueness is powerful. She hated that she didn't know more. Vanessa had always been the kind of woman who needed control, who needed to feel like she had the upper hand. And right now, she didn't. I find that hard to believe, she finally said. You were never much of a risk-taker. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. That's the thing about losing everything, Vanessa. I smiled. It makes you fearless. For a split second, she looked almost intrigued. Good. Let her wonder what she threw away. Let her doubt Adrian. I stood up, sliding a few bills onto the table. Nice catching up, Vanessa. Tell Adrian I said hello. And then, without waiting for a response, I walked away. Leaving her watching me point. 2 days later, I got a text from Lauren. Lauren, you're not gonna believe this. I smirked, already knowing exactly what had happened. Try me. Lauren, Vanessa has been acting weird. Asking questions about you. Wondering what you've been up to. And Adrian? Pissed. She brought you up during dinner, and he did not like that. I leaned back in my chair, satisfaction washing over me. It was happening. The cracks in Vanessa's perfect new life were starting to form. And I was going to tear them wide open. I typed back. Tell Vanessa if she wants answers, she should ask me herself. Lauren sent back a laughing emoji. But I wasn't joking. Because soon, Vanessa was going to come looking for me. And when she did, I'd be ready. Every chess game has a turning point, a moment when the pieces are positioned just right, when a single move can topple everything. And tonight? I was about to make that move. For the past few weeks, I had been rebuilding myself, physically, mentally, and strategically. I had planted doubt in Vanessa's mind. I had unsettled Adrian. And I had made them both watch me. Now, it was time to strike. Leo had been working overtime digging into Adrian Kane. And the results? Let's just say Adrian was filthy. Leo had uncovered shady financial deals, offshore accounts, and hush money payments that would make headlines if they ever got out. But I wasn't going to the press. No. I was going to use this information to destroy Adrian from the inside. And for that I needed Vanessa. Lauren had told me Vanessa had been asking about me, her curiosity turning into an obsession. She hated that she didn't know what I was up to. She hated that I wasn't mourning the loss of our marriage. She hated that, for the first time in our relationship, she wasn't in control. So I decided to make it worse. I sent Vanessa a text. Me drinks? Or are you still pretending you don't care? Her response came instantly. Vanessa, where? Me, Lucas. 9 p.m. Don't be late. I smirked, knowing she would show up. She wouldn't be able to resist. Lucas was a high-end lounge, classy, exclusive, and exactly the kind of place Vanessa loved. When I arrived, I made sure I looked better than ever. Tailored dark gray suit. Crisp white shirt. No tie, just enough of an open collar to keep it relaxed. A gold watch, not flashy, but commanding. Power isn't just what you have. It's what people see. And tonight? Vanessa was going to see a man she couldn't control. When she walked in, I watched her reaction carefully. She froze for a split second, just like at the cafe. But she recovered quickly, striding toward me like she hadn't just been caught off guard. She was in a sleek black dress, her makeup flawless, her perfume a scent I still remembered. She sat across from me, crossing her legs, her expression unreadable. Drinks? She asked, tilting her head. I smirked. You're the one who showed up. You tell me. She exhaled sharply, studying me. Why did you text me? I swirled my whiskey in my glass. Because I knew you wanted me to. She narrowed her eyes. Don't flatter yourself, Jason. I chuckled. I don't need to. You've been thinking about me ever since that corporate event. Her lips parted slightly, but she quickly masked her reaction. She was rattled. Good. Cut the crap, she said, leaning forward. What's your deal, Jason? What is this, some desperate attempt to prove something to me? I took a slow sip of my drink, letting the silence hang between us. Then I leaned in. You made a mistake, I said, my voice low. And you know it. She stiffened. Excuse me? I smirked. You left me for Adrian Kane. You thought you were trading up. I watched as her nails dug into her glass. She didn't like where this was going. But I wasn't stopping. You thought Adrian was better. That he had more power, more money, more influence. I tilted my head. Tell me, Vanessa, does he still feel like an upgrade? She didn't answer. Instead, she looked away, swirling the wine in her glass. That silence? That was doubt. And doubt was deadly. I leaned back, taking a slow breath. You're not happy, I murmured. Are you? Her jaw tightened. You don't know anything about my life, Jason. I chuckled. I don't have to. I can see it. Her fingers clenched around her wine glass. She was trying so hard to keep her composure. But she was losing. And then? I delivered the final blow. You know, I mused, swirling my drink. It's funny. You left me because you wanted a man with power. Someone who could give you the world. I leaned forward, my voice a whisper. But Vanessa, you don't even know the man you're sleeping with. Her head snapped up, her eyes flashing with something between panic and curiosity. I smiled. Hook. Line. Sinker. She swallowed. What are you talking about? I shrugged, finishing the last of my whiskey. Adrian isn't who you think he is. She stared at me, waiting, demanding more. But I didn't give it to her. Instead, I stood up. I dropped a few bills on the table and adjusted my suit. Then, as I walked past her, I leaned down and whispered in her ear. Ask him about Singapore. Then I walked away, without looking back. As soon as I stepped outside, I pulled out my phone. Me, Leo. Send the first file. Because Singapore? That was Adrian's dirtiest secret. A secret Vanessa was about to dig into. And when she did, Adrian Kane's entire world would start to crumble. And I would be there to watch it burn. Everything was in motion now. Vanessa was curious. Adrian was clueless. And soon, the man who mocked me would watch his entire world fall apart. Because I didn't want to just hurt Adrian Kane. I wanted to rip his life apart, piece by piece, until there was nothing left. I sat in my apartment, whiskey in hand, as my phone buzzed. Leo, file sent. Hope she enjoys the bedtime reading. I smirked, opening my laptop. The first document was a financial report, detailing offshore accounts under fake business names, linked back to Adrian Kane. The second? Emails. Dozens of hushed conversations between Adrian and a shell company in Singapore, where he had been funneling money, most likely embezzled from Brighton and Cole's investors. And the third? Photos. Images of Adrian in Singapore, not on a business trip, but with a woman who was very much not Vanessa. A woman I recognized from one of the hush money payments. Leo had outdone himself. And Vanessa? She was about to tear into this like a rabid dog. The next day, Lauren texted me. Lauren, what the hell did you say to Vanessa? I smirked. Me, why? Lauren, she's losing her mind. She confronted Adrian last night. Asked about Singapore. He brushed it off, but she's not letting it go. Bingo. I leaned back, satisfaction washing over me. Adrian was arrogant. He thought Vanessa was dumb enough to accept his half-assed answers. But Vanessa? When she sensed a lie, she dug until she got the truth. And that's exactly what she was going to do now. Later that evening, I was at my usual bar when my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I picked up. Jason. Silence. Then. You just can't stay out of my *****ing life, can you? Adrian. I grinned. Adrian! Always a pleasure. You think this is funny? He growled. You think you can just waltz back in and ***** with me? I swirled my drink, my voice calm. I don't know what you're talking about. You know exactly what I'm talking about. He snapped. Vanessa. She's been asking questions. I chuckled. That's a you problem, not a me problem. He exhaled sharply, barely containing his rage. Stay out of my business. I took a slow sip of whiskey. Or what? Silence. Adrian wasn't used to people challenging him. He was used to being the biggest, baddest man in the room. But now, he was losing control. And he knew it. I let the silence stretch, then said, Tell me something, Adrian. What happens when Vanessa finds the truth before you can bury it? He didn't answer. Because he knew. He was screwed. I smirked. Good talk, Adrian. Always a pleasure. Then I hung up. And that's when I knew. Adrian Kane wasn't just angry. He was scared. Vanessa's doubt becomes destruction. 2 nights later, Lauren texted me again. Lauren, Vanessa is spiraling. She's convinced Adrian is hiding something. And guess what? Me what? Lauren, she's been talking to Brighton and Cole's investors. She wants to know where the money is going. My grin widened. Because if the investors turned on Adrian, his empire would collapse. And the best part? I didn't even have to lift a finger. Vanessa was doing all the work for me. I knew Adrian wouldn't go down quietly. So I wasn't surprised when, a few nights later, I walked into my building's parking garage and found him waiting for me. He was leaning against his sleek black Audi, arms crossed, his expression murderous. "You've had your fun," he said. I smirked. "Oh, Adrian. This isn't fun. This is payback." His jaw tightened. "You really think Vanessa is gonna run back to you?" I laughed. "Vanessa? Please. I don't want her back." I took a step forward. "But I do want her to rip your life apart." His hands clenched into fists. "You don't know who you're ing with." I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "Neither do you." Then I leaned in. "You should have never mocked me, Adrian. You picked the wrong man to humiliate." His nostrils flared, but he said nothing. Because he knew I was right. I walked past him, pulling out my phone. "Stay tuned," I said over my shoulder. "The best part hasn't even started yet." As soon as I got to my apartment, I texted Leo. Time to drop the next bomb. Because Vanessa wasn't the only one I wanted questioning Adrian. The Brighton and Cole investors were about to see the truth too. And when they did, Adrian Kane would lose everything. Everything was falling into place. Adrian was desperate. Vanessa was relentless. And soon, the entire world would see Adrian Kane for the fraud he was. Leo didn't waste time. Within 12 hours, Brighton and Cole's biggest investors received anonymized emails containing documents exposing Adrian's offshore accounts and illegal financial dealings in Singapore. The subject line? Urgent, Brighton and Cole financial irregularities. A cause for concern? By noon, Leo texted me. "Leo, they took the bait. Calls are being made. Some of the investors are already meeting without Adrian. It's happening." I exhaled slowly, feeling the moment settle in. For the first time since Adrian Kane had mocked me in front of his entire office, he was the one being laughed at behind closed doors. That evening, I got another text. "Lauren, Vanessa's losing it. She confronted Adrian at work today." What did he say? Lauren lied, of course. But she's not buying it. She's demanding answers. I smirked, picturing Vanessa's frustration. She had always been a control freak, always needed to know everything, to be on the winning side. But now, she had bet on the wrong man. And she knew it. I was at the gym when I got the next text, from an unknown number. "Unknown number, you need to stop. Now." I smirked. "Me, or what? Unknown number, you think you've won?" No. But I know I'm winning." I stared at my phone, waiting. 5 minutes. 10. 15. No response. Because Adrian Kane? He had finally realized he was outmatched. The next morning, the financial scandal hit the media. One of the investors, furious over Adrian's mismanagement, had leaked the documents to a journalist. By noon, the headlines read, "Brighton and Cole's CEO under fire for offshore accounts and financial misconduct." And just like that, Adrian's empire began to burn. I sat back in my chair, watching the news coverage, a glass of whiskey in hand. He had mocked me. Called me nothing. Humiliated me in front of Vanessa, his colleagues, the entire office. And now? He was the one drowning. That evening my phone buzzed. "Vanessa." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I answered. "Jason," she said, her voice tight. "Meet me." I smirked. "Why?" She hesitated. I need to talk to you. In person." I checked my watch. 9 p.m. She was unraveling. "Good. Fine," I said. "Lucas. 30 minutes. Then I hung up. Because this conversation? It was going to be fun. I arrived at Lucas a few minutes early, leaning back in my chair as I swirled a glass of whiskey. Vanessa was late. Classic. She had always loved making people wait, making sure the world revolved around her. But tonight? Tonight she wasn't in control. Tonight she wasn't Vanessa, the powerful, confident woman who traded up. She was Vanessa, the woman who bet on the wrong man. And she was crumbling. 18:18, she walked in. Her usual confidence was cracked, her posture stiff, her fingers clutching her designer bag just a little too tightly. Her hair was perfect, as always. Her makeup was flawless, as always. But her eyes? Her eyes were filled with doubt. She spotted me, inhaled sharply, then walked over. I didn't stand. Didn't greet her. I just took a slow sip of my drink and waited. She sat across from me, tapping her nails against the table. "You look different," she finally said. I smirked. "So do you." She frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" I tilted my head slightly, pretending to study her. "You look worried." Her lips pressed into a thin line. "Cut the crap, Jason." I chuckled, leaning back. "You asked to meet. So talk." She hesitated, something Vanessa never did. Then, finally, she spoke. "What did you do?" I raised an eyebrow. "About?" Her jaw clenched. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. Adrian's financial scandal. The offshore accounts. The Singapore deal. His entire life is falling apart." I took another sip of whiskey. "And?" She leaned forward, her voice sharp. "And I know you had something to do with it." I smirked. "Oh, Vanessa. You always did love giving me too much credit." Her eyes flashed with frustration. "Jason," she hissed. "I swear to God." I cut her off, my tone calm. "Amused. Or what?" She blinked, stunned by my complete lack of fear. I leaned in, lowering my voice. "You made your choice, Vanessa. You chose Adrian Kane." I let the words sink in. "You laughed at me. You mocked me. You let him humiliate me in front of his entire office." Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't speak. "You thought you had won," I continued, my smirk never faltering. "That you had traded up." I tilted my head. "So tell me, Vanessa, how does it feel to realize you bet on a sinking ship?" She swallowed hard. I didn't know." I chuckled. "Didn't know? Or didn't care?" Silence. She looked away, her hands tightening into fists. And that's when I saw it. Regret. Not because she missed me. No. Because she had chosen wrong. "You wanted power," I murmured. "And now you're watching it slip through your fingers." Her breathing was uneven. "I didn't come here for a lecture, Jason." I smirked. "Then why did you come?" Her lips parted, but no words came. Because she didn't know. Or worse, she did. She was looking for a lifeline. She wanted to know if I would still catch her if she fell. And the answer? Hell no. I finished my drink and stood up, adjusting my suit. "Vanessa," I said smoothly, "you made your bed. Now lie in it." Her eyes widened slightly. "Wait." I ignored her, dropping a few bills on the table and stepping away. Because this was the best part of revenge. Not the destruction. The realization. She had everything she wanted. And now? She had nothing. As I stepped out of Luca's, the cold night air hit me, but I barely noticed. I had expected Vanessa to crack. I had expected doubt, regret, frustration. But what I hadn't expected, the sheer desperation in her eyes. She wasn't just worried. She wasn't just angry. She was terrified. And that told me everything I needed to know. Because Vanessa wasn't just watching Adrian's world collapse. She was about to get dragged down with him. 2 days later, I got a text from Leo. "Leo bro. It's happening. Adrian is F*** edition*. Me details? Leo, the investors are pulling out. The board is having an emergency meeting. The company's stock is crashing. And Adrian? Me, what about him? Leo, let's just say, he's unraveling." I smirked, taking a slow sip of my coffee. Adrian Kane, the man who had mocked me, humiliated me, treated me like nothing, was now watching his empire crumble in real time. And the best part? It was only going to get worse. That evening my phone rang. Vanessa. Again. I let it go to voicemail. A few minutes later, a text came through. Vanessa, Jason, please. I need to talk to you. Vanessa, it's important. Vanessa, I need your help. I stared at the screen, my smirk growing. Vanessa? Asking me for help? I waited. Let her stew. Then, finally, I texted back. Me, Lucas. 1 hour. Last chance. She replied instantly. Vanessa, I'll be there. She arrived on time this time. A first. Her usual perfectly composed mask was gone. Her hair wasn't as sleek, her makeup wasn't as flawless. She looked shaken. Good. She sat across from me, exhaling sharply. Thank you for meeting me. I leaned back in my chair watching her. Talk. She swallowed, gripping her glass. Adrian's going to lose everything. I smirked. I know. Her fingers clenched. And if he goes down, I might go down too. There it was. Vanessa wasn't here because she cared about Adrian. She was here because she was scared for herself. I tilted my head. And what do you want me to do about it? She bit her lip, hesitating. You have influence now. People are listening to you. I chuckled. You mean the investors who hate Adrian's guts? She flinched. Jason, please. I held up a hand. Stop. She froze. I leaned in, my voice dropping to a cold whisper. You didn't care when Adrian humiliated me. Her lips parted, but she said nothing. You didn't care when you laughed at me in front of his entire office. She exhaled shakily. Jason. You didn't care when you threw me away like I was nothing. I sat back, swirling my drink. So tell me, Vanessa, why the hell should I care about you now? Silence. She had no answer. And that was when she realized the truth. There was no fixing this. She had made her choice. And now? She would live with it. Her eyes filled with something I never thought I'd see. True raw regret. But it was too late. I stood up, tossing some cash on the table. Good luck, Vanessa, I said smoothly. You're going to need it. Then I walked away. And I never looked back. Adrian Kane was done. His empire was crumbling. His investors had turned against him. His company's stock was in freefall. And Vanessa? Vanessa was desperate. But I wasn't finished yet. I didn't just want Adrian to lose his company. I wanted him to lose everything. Leo had one last gift for me. A recording. One of Adrian's many business meetings in Singapore had been recorded, him bragging about how he had funneled investor money into his personal accounts. How he rigged numbers, manipulated reports, and kept people quiet with hush money. And now? That recording was in my hands. I sent the file to 2 places. One copy went to the Brighton and Cole board of directors. The other? Straight to the authorities. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of messages. News reports. Articles. Headlines blaring. Brighton and Cole's CEO Adrian Kane arrested for fraud and embezzlement. I turned on the TV just in time to see the footage. Adrian Kane in handcuffs, being escorted out of his own headquarters. His face was a mask of pure rage, pure humiliation. He tried to resist, shouting at the officers, but it was over. The world knew who he really was now. And I sat back, sipping my coffee, watching him fall. That afternoon my phone rang. Vanessa. I answered, just to hear her voice one last time. Jason. She whispered. You did this. I smirked. Did I? She exhaled shakily. Adrian is finished. And me? I have nothing. I leaned back in my chair, enjoying this. Sounds like a you problem. She let out a broken laugh. You really never cared at all, did you? I chuckled. No, Vanessa. You never cared. Silence. Then softly. Goodbye, Jason. She hung up. And just like that, she was gone. Adrian Kane lost everything. His company. His money. his reputation, his freedom. Vanessa? She tried to crawl back up, but no one wanted anything to do with the woman who stood by a sinking ship. And me? I walked away clean. Stronger. Sharper. Unstoppable. Because this wasn't just about getting revenge. This was about proving that no matter how hard they tried to break me, I would always come back stronger. And this time? I wasn't just back. I had won.